Welcome to the Shika Serbu Motor channel. This channel provides easy-to-understand explanations of car mechanisms. This video introduces all the bad points of battery EVs. Please take note. Only the negative aspects will be highlighted. All the good aspects will be ignored. So, if you are an EV proponent, I recommend not watching this video, as it might upset you. EVs reduce CO2 emissions. This is a fact. However, the issue is, how much? We will calculate using a Toyota Prius hybrid, and hypothetical, EV Alpha, with performance equivalent to the previous Tesla Model 3. The Prius has a fuel efficiency of 24 km per liter. The EV Alpha is equipped with a 60 kWh battery with a range of 430 km. To travel 1 kilometer, the Prius requires 0.042 liters of gasoline, while the EV Alpha needs 0.142 kWh of electricity. Burning 1 liter of gasoline generates 2.322 kilograms of CO2, so the Prius emits 0.098 kilograms of CO2 per kilometer traveled. On the other hand, the CO2 emissions of the EV Alpha vary depending on the region. This figure illustrates the proportion of thermal power generation and fuel ratios in the United States, Europe total, China, and Japan. This table represents the amount of CO2 emissions per kilowatt-hour generated for each fuel type. From these two datasets, the CO2 emissions per 1 kilowatt-hour by region can be calculated. You can see that Europe, where the proportion of thermal power generation is low, has lower CO2 emissions. China, where the proportion of coal-fired power generation is high, has higher CO2 emissions. We will calculate the CO2 emissions of the EV Alpha by using these data. The Prius emits 0.098 kilograms of CO2 per kilometer traveled. Depending on the region, the EV Alpha can have significantly lower CO2 emissions than the gasoline engine hybrid vehicle Prius. However, EVs consume a large amount of electricity during battery manufacturing, leading to a considerable CO2 emission. There are various opinions on the CO2 emissions during battery manufacturing. But here, we will use the median of 30 to 55 kilowatt-hours, which is 42.5 kilowatt-hours as reported in Nature Energy. 42.5 kilowatt-hours of electricity is consumed to manufacture a battery with a capacity of 1 kilowatt-hour. In 2023, Chinese-made batteries have exceeded a global market share of 60%. This means that, out of every 3 EVs, 2 are equipped with batteries manufactured in China. The EV Alpha equipped with a 60 kWh Chinese-made battery emits 1,380 kilograms of CO2 during manufacturing. At a mileage traveled of 0 kilometers, the EV Alpha has emitted 1,380 kilograms of CO2. The Prius also has a hybrid battery installed. But due to its very small capacity, we will ignore it here. The Prius emits 0.098 kilograms of CO2 per kilometer traveled, resulting in emissions of 4,900 kilograms after 50,000 kilometers, and 9,800 kilograms after 100,000 kilometers. The CO2 emissions of the EV Alpha vary depending on the region. In Europe, the emissions of the EV Alpha fall below those of the Prius around 20,000 kilometers. In the US, it takes about 30,000 kilometers. In Japan about 37,000 kilometers. And in China about 64,000 kilometers. In the future, technological innovations are expected to reduce the amount of electricity required for battery manufacturing. Additionally, the increase in renewable energy generation in each region will lead to a decrease in CO2 emissions during battery manufacturing and EV operation. However, please note that the CO2 emissions of EVs are never zero. Furthermore, please note that the typical lifespan of EV batteries is said to be 50,000 to 100,000 kilometers, or 5 to 8 years. You might say, no problem. The manufacturer guarantees either 8 years or 160,000 kilometers. You are right. You can obtain a new battery for free, in exchange for 1,380 kilograms of CO2. We will compare the weights of gasoline vehicles and EVs of similar sizes. In each case, the EVs are about 500 kilograms heavier. The cause of the 500 kilograms increase is batteries. Compared to gasoline, the energy density of batteries is very low. The energy density of gasoline is 12,000 watt-hours per kilogram. This means that 1 kilogram of gasoline contains 12,000 watt-hours of energy. In contrast, even the highest performing lithium-ion batteries have an energy density of around 200 watt-hours per kilogram. This means that EV batteries only have 1/60th the energy of gasoline. As a result, EVs need to be equipped with a large number of batteries, making them heavier. For automobiles, lightness is one of the most important factors for high capability. There is nothing beneficial about being heavy. If you're not a beginner driver, you can easily imagine the impact of having 5 passengers, each weighing 100 kilograms, on acceleration, braking, cornering, and ride comfort. In recent years, especially in Europe, research has been conducted regarding the environmental impact of tire dust. According to the British research organization, Emissions Analytics, tires themselves are made up of various chemicals. These chemicals have the potential to be released into the environment, and some are extremely toxic. And due to their greater weight, EVs emit about 20% more tire dust compared to gasoline engine vehicles. When we reduce CO2 emissions, tire dust emissions increased. In life, not everything goes according to plan. Unfortunately, as outsiders, we do not have any means of knowing the procurement costs of automotive manufacturers. However, it is easy to infer that a significant portion of the reason for the high cost of EVs is the procurement cost of batteries. If you're interested, visit the website of dealers in your area and confirm the price differences for these models. If you believe the price difference is worth it, then an EV might be an option for you. We will simulate a 500 km highway drive on the Tesla Model 3 long range and BMW 320i. The Model 3's battery capacity is 75 kilowatt-hours, and the 320i's fuel tank capacity is 59 liters. Referring to reports from several websites, we will use the mileage per unit for the Model 3 as 6.5 kilometers per kilowatt-hour, and for the 320i as 15 kilometers per liter. Both cars start with a full charge and a full tank of fuel, and they will refuel when their battery fuel tank levels reach 20%. The Model 3 will be charged using Tesla Supercharger V3, which has a maximum output of 250 kilowatt-hours, up to 80% in 30 minutes. The reason for charging only up to 80% is that, due to the characteristics of the battery, it can be charged to 80% in 30 minutes, but it takes another 30 minutes to charge from 80% to 100%. The hotel at the destination does not have charging facilities. So, let's start. Both cars will maintain a speed of 100 km per hour during the drive. The Model 3 reaches 20% battery remaining after 390 kilometers. It takes 30 minutes to charge, up to 80% battery remaining. When arriving at the hotel, the Model 3 has 43 kilowatt-hours of battery remaining, and the 320i has 26 liters of gasoline remaining. The next day, after driving 182 kilometers from the hotel, the Model 3 reaches 20% battery remaining. It takes 30 minutes to charge, up to 80% battery remaining. The 320i reaches 20% fuel remaining after 208 kilometers from the hotel, so it refuels to full. It takes 5 minutes. After driving 475 kilometers from the hotel, the Model 3 reaches 20% battery remaining. It takes 30 minutes to charge, up to 80% battery remaining. While the Model 3 is charging for the third time, the 320i arrives home. The Model 3 arrives home 55 minutes later than the 320i. During the 2 days, the Model 3 spent 90 minutes charging. The 320i spent 5 minutes refueling. Not as bad as I thought. If this trip is a leisurely holiday drive, an EV might be an option for you. However, if it were a time-constrained business trip, would you choose an EV? This graph represents the actual number of installed public chargers in 2023 and the target value for 2030. It will be a tremendous increase. It's good news for drivers who currently own EVs. If you are hesitating about purchasing an EV, this graph may nudge you to make a decision if you trust your government. The problem is, the charging station business is not profitable. This graph represents the balance of public fast charging stations. According to a report by McKinsey & Company, it seems that these do not generate profits without subsidies from the government. I will say again, if you trust your government, an EV might be an option for you. In cold seasons, the range of EVs decreases. This is because the battery performance decreases in low temperatures, and the air conditioner consumes electricity. If you want to learn more, please watch the video, Car Air Conditioning System, and Range of Battery EVs Decreases, linked in the description. However, since EVs are prevalent even in the extremely cold Nordic regions, it may not be a significant issue after all. If you don't mind the decrease in range during winter, or, if you live in a warm region, an EV might be an option for you. Gasoline engine vehicles also can be burned. If gasoline leaks or short circuit due to traffic accidents or parts deterioration, it will cause a fire. However, the fire department can extinguish it. Burning is a chemical change, where substances combine with oxygen. So if you deprive the surrounding oxygen or heat with water or extinguishing agents, the fire will go out. However, fires in EVs cannot be extinguished. When an EV battery short circuits, it continues to ignite until the electrical energy is depleted. What firefighters can do is prevent the spread of the fire, and simply wait for it to burn out. If you own an EV-exclusive garage, situated away from your home, then an EV might be an option for you. We have only seen the bad things about EVs in this video. However, where there is light, there must be shadow. If you're considering buying a car, make sure to discern your light and shadow to make a smart purchase. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to our channel. We'll see you in the next video.